Today, we're getting our hands on the Tofu60 2.0. Now, it's marketed as an entry-level keyboard, perfect for beginners. But it raises an interesting question. What makes a product beginner-friendly? Like, what's a beginner computer? Was it when the first computer with a graphical user interface came out, so you can click on icons with a mouse? Or when mass-produced, affordable computers made it so that everyone had one at their disposal? Or is it when computers become a hobby and something you could tinker with? Something like this Raspberry Pi. Like, what's a beginner keyboard? Was it when the first buckling spring keyboard came out so you can make crunchy noises with each keystroke? Or when mass-produced, affordable gaming keyboards made it so everyone had one at their disposal? Or is it when keyboards become a hobby and something you can tinker with? Something like this Tofu60. This keyboard, well, it's not exactly what you think it is. Buying this board is easy. It's available internationally through KBD fans and also through regional vendors. In a world where we often see products crowdfunded and perpetually out of stock, the Tofu60 2.0 is consistently available as an in-stock option. Beginner-friendly, check. The price point feels appropriate as well. Let's assume an entry-level keyboard, everything included, should run you about $300. With the Tofu60, you'd end up dropping $190 on a case, which leaves you with $110 for keycaps and switches. I think this should be justifiable for anyone trying to build something they can call their own for the very first time. Beginner-friendly, check. Fully assembled, this board is nice. It's got a pretty minimal design featuring very sharp edges. The finish is good and it feels pretty weighty. On the software side, it's VIA compatible, meaning you can customize what each key does in software. It features a hot swap PCB, so you can swap switches out easily. But there's no LEDs on the PCB, so you're out of luck if you want RGB. In my case, I'm using them with the Gateron Luciola switches. These are linear switches, and here's a quick sound test. As for configuration, I only use one of the included foam sheets, but the kit comes with many more if you choose to use them. Out of the three mounting choices, I ultimately decided on the SOX mounting mechanism. The top mount mechanism is the stiffest, the silicone cups are the bounciest, and SOX are the bit of a middle ground. The only place where the stock experience falls short is with the stabilizers. While there are parts of a keyboard where you don't really need to mod them anymore, such as switches, with stabilizers, it still feels like a necessity. This isn't KBD fans' fault per se, since, as far as I can tell, there isn't yet a solid contender for a straight, out-of-the-box stabilizer that meets the mark. Once you have everything assembled, it feels quite enjoyable. I think I got it to a place where I would want to daily drive this board. And anyone, including beginners, can get to this place too. Beginner-friendly, check. But it's in the whole building experience where things feel a little off. A quote-unquote beginner product simplifies complex processes and makes the user experience more intuitive. So even though the Tofu is positioned as a beginner board, at times it doesn't feel very beginner-friendly to build. For one, there's no instructions inside the box. On KBD Fan's website, the two linked build guides are a high-level build guide that skips over a few steps, as well as a 3-hour recording of a Twitch stream set to private that you can't find on YouTube search. So I've recorded the visual companion that goes along with the Notion page, which I'll link in the description. But I think it would have been nice for KBD fans to not rely on the community and instead put out a video and a more detailed step-by-step guide by themselves. Another point to keep in mind, when you unbox the Tofu60 2.0, you might expect that everything you need is inside the box. But when I got to the point of screwing in the stabilizers, I found that I had to resort to an external tool, a mini screwdriver, which unfortunately wasn't included in the package. Now, for me, it wasn't a major issue, but let's consider this. Not everybody has the necessary tools needed at their disposal. Imagine the frustration if you're in the middle of your build, only to discover you're missing a vital tool. Then you have to go online, order the mini screwdriver, and put your entire project on hold until it arrives a few days later. Also, random note, if you choose the cup mounting method, the little silicone cups are a little awkward to assemble, but the other mounting mechanisms are a lot more straightforward. So the Tofu60 2.0 comes with an impressive range of options, and this is a definitive plus. It's fantastic that users have all these choices at their fingertips. However, guidance is also key. Despite all the talk about experimentation, my gut tells me that most people aren't exactly thrilled at the idea of repeatedly disassembling and reassembling their keyboards just to test out different configurations. It would have been immensely helpful to include some general guidelines on why you would want to choose a certain configuration, from plates to foams to mounting methods. So in this regard, it feels like the Tofu is for those who have plenty of knowledge as well as time on their hands. To be clear, that seems at odds with someone who we'd consider to be a beginner, someone just dipping their toes into the mechanical keyboard scene and might want a more curated and streamlined building experience. Right now, it feels like they're being thrown into the deep end of keyboard assembly, which is why we're still on the lookout for that one keyboard that successfully bridges the gap where price, availability, customizability, and the overall building experience are all genuinely simple and tailored for beginners. In my book, ticking all 4 of those boxes is a prerequisite to categorizing this keyboard as a beginner one, without any reservations. The Tofu60 does well on the first 3 points, but I can't say it completely nails the last one just yet. But here's the upside. They're pretty close. Just imagine if they included a piece of paper with a QR code on it, linking to a solid, comprehensive first-party guide on building a keyboard, as well as a resource on exploring all the possible different configurations. Add a little screwdriver in for the included stabilizers, which should make the building experience so much smoother, especially for a beginner. But I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Leave them in the comments below. But for now, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.